ASTM C717 designates standard terms to use when referring to building seals and sealants. Definitions and descriptions of terms are written to ensure that building seals and sealant standards are properly understood and interpreted. Bite refers to the effective structural contact dimension of a structural sealant. This is shown in figures 1 and 2. Number 6 corresponds to the bite dimension. Here you could see this is not the best illustration. This spacer is discontinuous, so the sealant is the full depth of this. This is a better representation where it shows the sealant is in contact with the frame and the sealant is in contact with the glass for the dimension 6. It's slightly more in contact with the glass, and you can see that the dimension of the bite is limited to the minimum of either dimension. In these figures you can see the same thing. The minimum dimension governs the bite dimension, and in this figure the thickness of the glass is bonded, so it's bonded on its edge, and the bite dimension is equal approximately to the thickness of the glass. Again, the bite is the effective structural contact dimension of a structural sealant. A bond breaker is a material to prevent adhesion at a designated interface. You can see in our figure here, either B or C could be used as a bond breaker over this joint. C in this figure is our bond breaker, and we have sealant bridging over top of the bond breaker. So a bond breaker is a material that's used to prevent adhesion at a designated interface. The term caulk, used as a verb, refers to the installation or application of a sealant across a joint or crack or crevice. This is the actual activity being performed. We see that this standard refers us to the definition of sealant. When we want to use the word caulk or caulking, we're talking about the actual activity of applying sealant, and we're not referring to the sealant material when we use the word caulking. A fillet sealant joint is a joint where sealant is applied over the joint to the face of substrates that are approximately perpendicular to each other. Figure 5 shows us this condition where we have two different building elements. They're being joined by A, which is sealant, and B, which is sealant backing. Sealant refers to a material that has the adhesive and cohesive properties to form a seal. Sealant backing is a compressible material placed in a joint before applying a sealant. Note that the purpose of the sealant backing is to assist in providing the proper sealant configuration, to limit the depth of the sealant, and in some cases to act as a bond breaker. Substrate is a material upon which films, treatments, adhesives, sealants, membranes, and coatings are applied, or materials that are bonded or sealed together by adhesives or sealants. Tooling is the act of compacting and contouring a sealant in a joint. Tooling time refers to the interval of time after application of a one-component sealant or after mixing in an application of a multi-component sealant during which tooling is possible. As the sealant dries, it becomes impossible to tool it. Durometer refers to an instrument for measuring the hardness of rubber-like materials, or it could be used as a term to identify the relative hardness of rubber-like materials. For example, low durometer refers to relatively soft material, or high durometer, relatively hard material. Extrudability refers to the force required to produce sealant flow through an orifice. For example, a sealant with good extrudability would readily flow through a nozzle, whereas a sealant with poor extrudability would require a great deal more force to cause it to flow through a nozzle. A butt sealant joint is a joint where sealant is applied within the joint between approximately parallel substrate surfaces that are face to edge or edge to edge. And we can see Figure 4 for clarification. Figure 4 represents the edge-to-edge condition and the face-to-edge condition. A fillet sealant joint is a joint where sealant is applied over the joint to the face of substrates that are approximately perpendicular to each other. And we can see Figure 5 for clarification. Figure 5 shows the condition where a fillet joint is created between two substrates. A lap sealant joint is a joint where sealant is applied within the joint between approximately parallel substrates that are face to face. And we can see in Figure 6 we have two approximately parallel substrate elements being joined by a sealant to create a lap joint.